record?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to April 2017. We're talking about a topic that is a little heavy today, I think.
You usually pick heavy topics.
Yeah, I pick heavy. I write them at the end of the year, and then we have to write them after the titles have been written. And doing research on this was a lot of fun because I gathered information from a lot of different places, and I hope it's a good ride for you. It's certainly one that speaks to both of us at the top of our voice too. So always remember, when you're teaching, you're learning.
Mm-hmm. And you're busy. Is that the title?
Yes. Busy versus getting things done. I mean, every time we're coaching salons or meeting with our teams, either at our schools or here at PSC, you know, the excuse for accomplishment many times is too busy, got a lot going on, too busy. Well, you know, how's that working for us? If that's the topic that we're saying, one thing I learned while we were writing this is that how often people say to us, how are you? And I know my filler is busy, so busy, just busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to really try not to say that anymore, because what I learned just doing research and studying coaches like John Wooden, am I saying
Yes.
that right? Is that's just not attractive.
Well, one of our mentors, Win Claybaugh, always says, I'm busy, but I have time for you. I'm busy, but I'm available. And I just listened to an author this morning, a New York Times best-selling author, and he said that on the last page of his book, he put his cell number, his own personal cell number. He said he gets about 100 phone calls a day, and that's become his thing.
He's busy.
Yeah, his busy, but also his way to say that I'm available. People are shocked when they're able to get through to this. It's not a voicemail. You get through to him. You get through to the author himself. So I thought that was interesting. That's a challenge, because we all think we're busy, and we all are busy. Let's face it. And I know that's a topic that we're going to explore, all the different ways that we're busy. And it always comes back to, are we busy, or are we getting things done? Are we busy, or are we being productive? And it's okay, I think, to be busy if it's productive and we're still available. And I can't wait to see how you help us make that happen, Terry.
Well, I don't know. Especially for owners that are behind the chair, that's really, really difficult, because you've already committed a place for yourself throughout the day. So you're committed somewhere, and then you have to be available. I mean, that's kind of like an oxymoron, isn't it? Right. I mean, those things don't go together. And I've always said, if I had to still be, when I was in the restaurant, I don't know how I would have managed and waited tables at the same time. Mm-hmm. That would have been really difficult, because my focus has to be on the tables that were assigned to me, but then my leadership is responsible for every square footage. So how do you accomplish both? And you're going to have to use your resources differently. So
I think the other thing that needs to be said here is that this is busy, not as in a hairdresser being busy. So I think from the time you're in school, the goal is to be busy.
That's everyone talks about. How long does it take to get busy?
Right. And so we're not talking about that particular type of busy. That busy is a good thing. We want to increase traffic. We want to have guests that count on us for their service. But I guess we're assuming leadership here, that leaders are really people who influence others. And so busy in that sense, busy as a leader. How do we remain available? How do we make sure that we're busy doing the right stuff?
Well, and I also think that time management, a lot of people struggle with that. They don't know how to prioritize, and they don't know how to use their resources, and they don't know how to say, this is what needs to be accomplished today, and this is how I'm going to get it done. I mean, you know what, the part of business, like let's say yesterday, what happens if I said I was too busy to write a program? And then you have to sit here at 10 o'clock today and say, you know, it's not written. I just got busy doing other things. Well, that's not an acceptable answer. And so when you've got deadlines to hit, or you've got people waiting on your leadership, you've got to make sure you're giving time and not winging it. So let's go through and let's talk about this, because what I learned yesterday that Coach Wooden said, you know, when you say you're too busy, or you say I'm busy, or Coach, what's going on? I'm busy. What people are hearing is, I'm important. I'm more important than you. I'm a valuable person. I'm living a full, engaged life. And it really pads the ego. And I thought, man, I say it all the time. How are you? Busy.
Busy or tired?
Busy or tired. Those are my two. Tired and busy. Tired win. And, you know, I think about, I've got to change that. And I don't want to say fine either, because that's flat. But I've got to say, great, what's going on with you? You know, who cares about busy? And even if someone said, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, we were busy. I mean, everyone, the goal is almost to be too busy in life. So
well, it's a one up, one down mentality. It's who's busiest. If I'm busier than you, then I'm more important. Then I'm more
just
valuable.
like last week, you said, you know, I got to keep moving. Like I didn't either, you know. So we have to make sure that we understand how we say that is, I'm moving on to my next appointment's at 10 o'clock. What can we get done between 9:45 and 10? You know, you just have to say things differently so people hear it differently. Next page, please. Am I supposed to do that? So I couldn't believe when I read this. This was on the Wall Street Journal. Our culture has made being busy one of the highest valued currencies in the social market. So social media, how many likes did we get? How much time were we on there? How busy were we? So busy, and we're going to post all of our things of how busy we are. And wow, when did that line, stop and smell the flowers, stop and smell the roses, right? That was back in the 60s, I think, during the Love Fest. They weren't even busy then, right? Everything was slow. Party lines not waiting at a club. Party lines were on a phone. We had a party line. And so anyway, we've got to change that. We can't be too busy for our customers. We can't be too busy for our people. We can't be too busy for our families. And we can't be too busy for our spouses. We have to figure out, how are we going to put this in perspective? And the best thing is, wherever you are, be there and get things accomplished today. Not just be busy, get things accomplished. So I got it. So justification. And some people will justify. I mean, I had a conversation with Vicki O'Connor yesterday, and I'm swear to you, I have no idea what I agreed to. I realized that this morning. She asked me a question. I said, yes, absolutely. I was just trying to get through it because I was walking from one room to the other. So justification for being busy sometimes is not actually listening. I didn't listen to her yesterday. I've got to call her today. I'm meeting her at 1 o'clock in the city, and I agreed to something that I have no idea what I agreed to. That's pretty scary, actually. So
you do that all the time with me.
Okay, well,
I've got a list of things.
Okay, good. Give me the list. So when you look at not speaking genuinely, I wasn't speaking genuinely yesterday. People have justification. We're so busy, that's why we're late. We're so busy, we're not prepared. We're so busy, we don't hit any deadlines. I mean, really, we're not getting much done. And saying I'm doing the best I can with my busy, that's just poor. What people hear in that, it's poor time management, poor leadership, poor disciplines. So we've got to change that. I mean, yesterday I did not stop to listen to her. How many times have you done that with your staff? And I can't believe I have to call her and say, what did we talk about yesterday? And I can't use the word. I was so busy going from one thing to another. I was in motion, because there's times when you're in your business and you're actually going from point A to point B to take care of a situation. And someone says, hey, they drop in, or they just dump on you right there. Can you, yeah, absolutely, okay, because I'm going here. I should have said, look, I'm not paying attention now because I've got to pass this message along. Let me come right back to you so I can give you the due attention you deserve. And I didn't do that. So how are we justifying we're so busy, and that's a problem. Here's what I loved when I was listening to Coach Wooden yesterday. He says, you never want to confuse activity with accomplishment. And years ago, I always heard that as you never want to confuse activity with productivity. Same thing. And I mean, you could lose, if you're not careful, you can lose an hour without getting anything done because you didn't have focus or a commitment to what you were trying to get accomplished. So is there another error there? So just because you show up to work every day does not mean you're getting anything done. He said, you know what, to his players, just because you show up to practice doesn't mean we're accomplishing a new skill set. Thinking about the number of hours you work just confuses the issue. Time is not a factor. You can say, look, I was at the office, I was at the salon, 50 hours this week, where were you? Someone working less hours, what's so funny?
Yes, your tone of voice, your little mock tone of voice.
Well, how often have we said that? I didn't get this done because I was at the office this many hours. And like he said, time is not the factor. It's quality, making progress, and accomplishing goals is. So he never wanted them to talk about the number of hours they practice. He wanted them always to talk about what they were getting accomplished, what improvements were they making. And he said he followed a defined, planned out routine that maximized efficiency. And he said, your team should know and own your routine as a leader. And I love that.
Well, some of the great coaches, and John Wooden certainly being one of them, he was renowned for the fact that he taught very few plays. He had one of the simplest basketball offenses that were there, but they executed it so well that it was unstoppable. And so they weren't busy doing 100 things or 100 plays. They were busy running maybe 8 or 9 plays. I forget the exact number, but it was a very small number of plays that they ran.
In comparison, right?
That no one could stop. And Vince Lombardi, they talk about him being one of the greatest football coaches ever. He was the same way. They had a handful of plays that they ran and they executed perfectly. Every play in football is designed to score a touchdown. Every single play, if executed perfectly, is designed to score a touchdown. And so if that's the case, how many plays does one really need? They used to say that everybody knew what play the Green Bay Packers were going to run, but they couldn't stop it. And they also say that Vince Lombardi started every season with all of these veteran football players holding up a football and saying, gentlemen, this is a football. That's how basic he believed everything was. And you know what? Has even football or basketball become so much more complex, so much busier, so different than it was then? I think that we have to say that we're a product of what is now. And what is now is that there's so much more information available today. There's so much more that you can
get lost in.
Absolutely get lost in.
Mm-hmm.
But more doesn't necessarily mean better. It's only better based on the actions you take and based on the accomplishments that are there. So that's kind of what I think when I see this. And so when you see following a defined, planned out routine that maximizes efficiency, and that a team needs to know their leader's routine, those are important things. And I think of, we had Sal Masseri and Anna Pacito yesterday, and they talked about doing a photo shoot. And what they talked about was a team of 5 or 6 people. And one of the more important things was the fact that the team had to know the team leader's needs in a photo shoot before they without even speaking them, because they had that rhythm together. They'd done it before. They knew what was, they knew what one was thinking before it had to be spoken. And that's when you see it almost becomes a creative dance. It becomes a beautiful exercise when you've got a team that knows how to work together and that knows how to anticipate and that knows one another's routines.
So what are the routines? We're opening the salon. What's the routine to start the day, the midday? We're going to talk about later on. But what are you known for? It's it's difficult when it's not. I mean, I'm sure John wouldn't. First thing they did when they got to practice is they didn't just start running around. I'm sure they did their drills or whatever he did to get them ready to practice hard, whether it was stretching or anything else they had to do to get the heart rate up. But it's amazing to me that we might have only heard this routine word really stuck just now. What is my routine as a salon owner? What is my routine to get the team ready to hustle that day?
Yeah, or a ritual. And again, I heard Andy Andrews speak this morning. He's one of my absolute favorite authors of all time. And he talked about Michael Phelps winning his 8th gold medal by 1/100th of a second in the Olympic Games. 1/100th of a second. That's faster than it takes to blink an eye. And he won by that. And he said, what were all the little things necessary in order for him to save that 1/100th of a second?
Mm-hmm.
What were the things that came into play? What were the things that could have derailed him along that way? And I thought it was really interesting. He said it could have happened based on the sleep he got the night before, the amount of sleep, or derailed the amount of sleep he didn't get. And so how many times does busy take away sleep from all of us? How many times can that be our 1/100th of a second? Think about the fact that he could have made the right thought. He could have provided the right thoughts in his mind while he was standing, getting ready to dive into the pool. He could have made the right decision while he was swimming in the pool. He could have looked up, looked around, saw where everybody was, and thought, I just don't have it today. All of the little things that took place in however long that was that allowed him to be 1/100th of a second faster and achieve that 8th gold medal. What about us? What are those little things? And the message in all of that was, to me, this whole idea of how important is perception. How important is one's own perception when it comes to their productivity? And he used a very simple example of that glass half empty or half full kind of process. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about it was he said, it's not even what you think. You might be a half empty person, you might be a half full person, but it's the choice that you make to see that glass. The glass doesn't change. The glass is that data is a fact. The amount of work that you have to do is a fact, and that doesn't change. That doesn't change from when you start the day to your immediate list that's in front of you. What changes is your perception of it. So then the choice you make and how you perceive it. And if you make the right choice, then it's that makes the day work. More importantly, without changing any data, without changing any data, your perception, your choice of that perception can set your day sailing or can set you with a day where you accomplish nothing.
Good. So this is John Maxwell. We love him too.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest enemy of good thinking is busyness. Difficult to dream big when you're too busy to dream big. You're so in it that you can't think about ways for improvement or ways to be productive. What's the definition of productive?
Well, and another thing that John says all the time is that say no to many things so that you can say yes to the best. And I think that's a nice thing to think about and hard to execute, but it's so true, because busy says, I've said yes to a lot of things, maybe too many things, maybe things that aren't as important as other things. Do I have room to say yes to the best?
Good. So the excuse. Busy is an excuse for lack of success and accomplishment. Mm-hmm. You can have people, you ask them, where are you at on this? What are you doing on this? Where are we at on this? Oh, I haven't gotten to that yet. Okay, so now what it comes down to is someone's chasing now to get information. And when you chase, that's only going to go for so long, and then you stop. People don't want to chase anymore. So let's say, are we going to change our hours of the salon? Yeah, I'm thinking about that. Well, where are we at on it? I haven't made a decision yet. Okay. Or I've been too busy to put any time to it and really evaluate it. Well, if it's the best decision for the business, why is I've been too busy the excuse for not getting that accomplished? That's just one example. Someone else could say, hey, have I earned my promotion? Yeah, I've been too busy to look at that. We've got to be careful. Now, we can have excuses in front of ourselves all the time, but it's when you have excuses in front of others that it becomes a problem. And it really can break down the morale. So this is what it's being said. Busy is the new lazy. And this kind of broke my heart. Because number one, I've never perceived myself as a lazy person. But if busy is the new lazy, this is very, very sad. And how are we going to impact that? I think that busy creates crisis leadership, not good leadership. And I mean, there's times that I've made fun of this, but we've been busy. Maybe our schedule's been very aggressive, and we've been traveling heavily, or we've been speaking. You speak for 8 hours, and you know after you're done, you gotta bring it down a notch. And we'll say, well, we need sit and stare time. You know, we kind of make fun of that, sit and stare.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've said this before. I've watched whole sporting events and have no idea who won, what the score was, or anything. I watched it, but I wasn't retaining any of it because I was so tired.
Mm-hmm.
But busy is the new lazy. Now, what I'm hearing is, because the slide before said it's the excuse. So if we're so busy we can't get things done, or we can't get to the opportunity list, then we're going to become sloppy and lazy as an organization.
This is you're going to turn this, right, to give us some good stuff.
Yeah,
it's kind of bumming me out.
I am. Well, but we also have to realize that this is what people's perception could be in our leadership. We're so busy that, and busy's the new lazy. I didn't write that. That was written all over the internet. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to impact this? So let's go into some of that. I'm going to talk about quickly the culprits. So if you're guilty of any of this, culprits are interruptions. And this is what's amazing when people say, oh, I'm so busy. But they'll get an interruption and they'll start handling immediately that interruption that didn't need to be fixed right now. So now all of a sudden, and then we're mad at that person. You interrupted me. I didn't interrupt you to get it done right this second. So now I just added to your busy list. Culprits are distractions, lack of clear priorities, attachment to being busy. I'm just busy. Too busy to prioritize, so we never might get anything done. Too busy to be effective. Lack of follow-up and good communication because we're too busy to follow up or let anyone know. And intentions are so good with no execution, too busy to execute. So, I mean, you've got owners that say, I've got all these ideas, too busy to execute because they can't prioritize and realize what can be done right now. Okay, so here's some of the tricks. And this is from Coach Wooden too. He says, you've got to pause. And being effective means being deliberate by design, by schedule, by deadlines, by communicating, by positioning. All that has to be deliberate. So one of the examples he said is, I never take any of my phone calls during the day. I create a time when I'm going to take my phone calls. And that was before cell phones and everything. He said, I will return calls. I will not take every call because then the phone manages me versus me manage my time. I'm going to have a set schedule and a routine. I'm going to hit deadlines, and they're going to be listed everywhere, what I have to get accomplished. I'm going to communicate to all the parties so it can't be an excuse that I didn't tell them my expectations. And I'm going to position the people around me that are going to help me. All of that. Those are great tips right there, right? So now we go into looking at this. This was one of the things that was up there. and look at where you fall into. Are you filling time with tasks rather than prioritizing results? Effective is figuring out how to spend less time on getting more done. So you're going to look at the busy schedule and effective and say, all right, what shifts do I need to make so I can become more effective in the salon, right? Some of the things that we hear is what are the day's habits? What are the start of the day habits? What's my opening leadership need to look like? My routine, my midday leadership, my closing leadership, and also maybe weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly habits that I've got to get done and accomplished. And those might fall into goal setting. It might fall into quarterly or by twice a year or maybe once a year. You're going to do reviews. You're going to evaluate pricing. You're going to look at all the contracts you have in place. You're going to do audits. You know who the best person that almost I get irritated even thinking about, but I admire her at the same time, is you open up Martha Stewart's Living magazine, and she has her calendar of what she's got to get done to run her household and run her business. It'll say, we're taking the screens out on, April 22nd. Really? You know the days you're taking your screens out and the days you're planting your tulips and the days you're and I'm thinking, wow, but she knows already. She planned it all out. And that's really positive. And sometimes when we talk about a timeline, which we've done in the past, it's get all that education, what's the specialty, what changes do we want to make, what system changes, what computer technology changes do we need to make, and all of that is planned out in advance. So the day's habits, what am I inspecting during the day versus crisis managing during the day? There's a difference between the two. Okay?
Yes.
So here's some of the things. And if I were to say to you, what are you working on? Busy. What do you need to get done today? What do you need help with? How can your resources assist? And do you need a business buddy? And what are you working on? And are you sharing that and telling other people? Are you using your resources? Are you notorious for being so busy that you're dumping at the last minute on people? Are you always creating crisis because you didn't plan out well in advance? I can tell you from a standpoint of the education division at PSC, I'm just going to start with that, is we talk to them constantly about being a month out. You've got to be a month out on your enrollment. You've got to be a month out on your billing for education. We don't charge the credit card till 30 days before the event. You have to know all of your model requirements. The artists, you have to understand, this is not going to happen if it's a week in advance. It's going to come together in a sloppy way. And even Trish said to me yesterday, I used 4 agencies for Sal and Anna, and I had 6 models show up, and they wanted 10. 4 agencies.
Yeah.
So even a good plan can create a problem, but at least, so I said, what did we learn from it? What could we have done differently? But she wasn't in crisis all up to that. She still did her work ahead of time. But I've witnessed education departments over the years that everything is last minute, and they don't leave themselves any wiggle room to respond to any problems that could occur. So what are you working on right now? What deadlines are hitting you? What do you owe your people? And do you need someone to hold you accountable? The worst thing about being a boss is you answer to no one. The best thing about being a boss is you answer to no one. But sometimes it's at the expense of where you can take the business. You want to comment about that at all?
I think that really you said it very well in that it's difficult. It makes it, I always think, okay, you're the boss, you're accountable to no one. And I look at it differently. I think when you're the boss, you're accountable to everyone. I think that you're accountable not only to every staff member, every guest, you're accountable to your banks, you're accountable to your government, you're accountable to to a lot of deadlines that come along with business, that the people who work in the business don't have that weight, nor should they have the weight of that on their shoulders.
You're right.
So it's ultra big picture accountability, and it's ultra accountability with deadlines. If you miss them, it's going to cost the business money. But because of that, you can put aside people accountability, the accountability you have to communicate with your team, to respond. If you've got a deadline with the government, or you've got a deadline with a team member, and one has to slide, guess what's going to slide? And that can get old for your team. I know that. That's something that we face all the time in business. Am I going to put aside a meeting with someone because I've got a deadline with someone else? So, and yeah, do we? Coach Wooden's list is a great way to think about that. There are many great time management systems that are out there. The challenge is picking one
That works for you.
Yeah, pick one that fits your style, your mannerisms, your way.
Well,
but you have to have one. That's the key.
Well, do you need a business buddy? I mean, sometimes I don't think your staff is qualified to do that. Maybe your PSC consultant can help you with your deadlines, with your timeline. Help me get this accomplished by this date. Will you spend time with me? I mean, sometimes we don't know where to start. You know, I was talking to someone just recently about 12-year-old girls and teenagers, and you know, and something we could be working on is, you know, clean your room. And she said, Terry, you have no idea how many times I hear kids say to me, but I don't know where to start. I mean, it's a mess, but I don't know where to start. You know, and people who have good disciplines just know, just start something, whether it's I'm going to start with the clothes, and I'm going to pick up this, and I'm going to remove this and create. But there's times that you get so overwhelmed, like clean your room or start making some changes in your salon. Yes, I don't know where to start. And start small. Start with little things to try to create it. It's not my favorite thing. Boy, does it feel good when it gets done. You know, and like you said, there's other things that need to be done in the house this weekend, and you're up in the 12-year-old's room again. You know, hopefully at some point she'll sleep better knowing it's all arranged and organized again. Maybe not. I could be delusional on that. But where do you start? You start by first step in.
Well, the other thing on this is you know, as I was listening to you, Terry, I thought about the book, The Four Agreements, where it says be impeccable with your word. I think there's a lot of times that we've said yes to something, but we haven't committed to it. We've said yes to follow up with another person, or we've nodded, or we've left that conversation with the person thinking that we are going to actually follow through with it. But we didn't really commit to it, because if you commit to something, you get started on it. If you haven't started on it, you're probably not.
I don't agree with that completely, but I understand how you're saying it. For example, every day we make decisions when we open our emails. What do? You open your email and you trigger yourself to say, ooh, do I need to respond immediately to that? Or can that,
or get back to it later.
Can that wait? And it goes to the wait pile. But this person over here, this employee, could have their hand up saying, man, I really need an answer. But you made a decision that it wasn't a priority. All of this, if I think about cutting my teeth in business, that you had to communicate with another individual versus a screen. But I've had people say, you know, I left you a message 2 weeks ago and you didn't leave me another one. I just didn't, you know, just waiting for your reply. The sitting back and waiting because people I guess you were too busy to answer is a real problem. And we make the decision every single day, you know, and I'm really trying. Yesterday when I read that example of opening your email and making a decision, what happens if your employees were all standing in front of you, watching you with your emails, opening them? What happens if they were watching? Okay, that's from Brian. That's from Jennifer. That's from, and they would sit there and go, oh my God. I mean, they really didn't even read it. What happens if your employees were watching you cast them aside? That's pretty sad. But I thought that was a great, great visual. And that helped me understand it. Okay, so, what are our teams thinking? I mean, it's time not to be too busy for them. And I think the examples we've given so far today is we have to really say, oh my goodness, what does that look like? And let's talk about the questions to ask. We've had this in our coaching sessions. Do our hours make me appear too busy? Meaning my hours behind the chair. Do our hours make me appear too busy? The salon's hours. Mm-hmm. Do I have time to prove that I'm working on the business versus in the business? Do I have the right schedule to get things done? Do I have a start of the day, midday, and an end of the day routine? Do I have people positioned correctly to help me on task or keep me on task? And do people have to constantly chase me? If that's it, then there's a problem. That the schedule's not working, we might have to do some changes. I have to talk to my people and say, stay in, chase, 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 keep with me, fight for what's important, fight the good fight. We had that conversation yesterday. I said, this person does not know how to fight the good fight. They might message you or text you and think they've done enough. Mm-hmm. When you've got 70 people trying to get to you, one little text is never going to be enough, right? Right.
True.
So what? What are my busy addictions right now? Let's talk about busy addictions. Is my individual productivity a busy addiction? Is my phone a busy addiction? Absolutely. Is social media a busy addiction? Yes. Do some people play games? It's a busy addiction? Yes. Look at all these things that could be a busy addiction. Do I schedule myself too tight to get anything done? Now, I'll tell you with you, I always make fun, is if someone says, Steve, can you do this in 3 weeks? What do you say?
Sure.
Well, absolutely, because Steve really thinks 3 weeks from now is 100 years away. Today it is, right? Then we get up to that date and he goes, oh my God, look what I've done, right? Mm-hmm. Because your intentions are beautiful. The execution is at the expense of everything, right? Even you.
Yeah.
Even you.
You bet.
And so how do we do this? And I don't know if I'm getting older as a woman, but I can't say yes as much as I used to before. I just can't. And sometimes I have to think, yeah, I can do that, and it's at the expense of what? Like even last night. And I would have loved to have dinner out, but I was tired. The kids are going through a new routine, and so I want to be in 2 places at the same time. But what's the best for me, and what was the best for our family last night? So in another way, you could say, what's the best for me, and what's the best for the business? It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. When you're a yes man, very rarely do you say no.
That's true.
So then, here's what we hear a lot of times when we're coaching. Do you have staff meetings because they're saying communication's a problem? No, we don't have time for have meetings. I need new staff. How much time are you putting into recruiting? I don't have time to recruit. We want to change our color line, but we don't have time to do product training and change our color. How you doing on your I really don't know our software. My intentions are to learn our software, but I don't have time. So I don't have time to work on the computer and become the expert. How are we doing with education? We don't have time to go to classes. Are these changes necessary? Yeah, but we don't have time. I don't have time to get my work done. Well, these time excuses, if you didn't have constraints, could you get it done?
How do you not have constraints?
Because you're not spending your time in the right places. Those are your...
Maybe.
Well, then give me the other ones. Give me the other. What you're saying to everyone when you say this is what? It's not the most important, right? Something else is more important. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm just trying to play a little bit of the devil's advocate here.
You should.
For the people that are listening. And
Everyone's probably going to lay in the street after this call, right?
Yeah, this isn't it.
This isn't easy,
find the
but
nearest
it's
bottle of
necessary.
Patron, something.
But it's real though, Steve. And the busyness, the goal is to get busier and busier and busier. And let me give you an example how things are changing. Leadership is changing. Kids are changing. And this is funny because we went through this weekend. And Emma said, I want 2 apps on the phone. Please, can I have 2 apps on the phone? Can I have some drawing, coloring app? And can I have Snapchat? And I don't understand Snapchat. And I said, Steve, help me understand it. What are the risks with Snapchat? And then we found out you have to be 13. You have to have parents' consent. But it's the main way kids are communicating now. And I said, God, all I want to do is be on the phone with my friends. You can have the phone line anytime you want. We're not on it. I don't want to call my friends. That's not what we do now. We don't call each other on the phone. We just text and FaceTime and be in the same room with each other, but we don't talk. I was so blown away by that because I know how important it is for a girl to be able to communicate with her friends, but they want to communicate differently. And I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that it's still, how are we going to fulfill that need for her of having to communicate with her friends, but in today's world? Brian, when you were doing it, growing up, it was AOL.
Instant Messenger, absolutely.
Right? So now it's different. And I don't want her to not have the ability to create that social connection, but we also have to protect her safety at all costs. So it's a difficult time. What I'm saying is times are changing, even getting busy and getting things done. Everything is becoming so instant gratification, instant excuses. For example, if I wanted to Google something, I could say I'm going to Google blah, blah, blah. And by the time I'm done, because Google can go anywhere, I just lost 4 hours or 3 hours on something because it had so many legs to it. Or it could have had an ad that came up and drew my attention that way. You know, look at these shoes. And all of a sudden, yeah, squirrel. So all of a sudden I'm here and I go right there. The world is so busy with layers of interruptions and interaction that we're not getting things done. We can't stay focused. It's very difficult. But yet we owe getting things done to our people. That's what's difficult. I mean, what are our busy addictions? So, questions we have to ask over and over again. Is this the best use of my time? Is this the best use of my team's time? Does our timeline state what we're trying to get done right now? And if it's just the same, I mean, if we're not going to change things, we're not going to get things done. If we're just doing the best we can and we're there 50 hours a week, but we can't make improvements or people are waiting for answers for us, something's not working. And we've got to change it. We've got to get things accomplished. You know, and I know that even when we're coaching a salon, to tie them down to, okay, when do you want to implement that? Oh, wow, I don't know. Okay, so I said, you want me to give you a date? Why don't we shoot for June 1st on this? Oh, and people are afraid to do a deadline because they know that that's difficult. Where'd you go?
Well, I'm thinking about the topic. You know, I think about times in my life where a workout has been extremely important. And all of a sudden you're working out for an hour every day. Where'd that hour come from?
Choice.
And,
It's all choice-based.
And so it backs up to all of this. It is choice-based. It is not only choice-based, but it's also commitment-based. And it's what's important now.
Well, there's some people that's all or nothing. All or nothing. I mean, that's you. When you make a decision to do something, but it is full out. Right? If you said today, I'm going to start working out tomorrow, there would be nothing that would get in the way of that. Because that's just how you are. I don't have that. All or nothing.
I don't know. I think people do. I think people do have that on things that they strongly value.
Okay. So is this the best use of my team's time, too?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've said that to you. I will say, is that the best use? I mean, even at PSC, I'll say, was that the person that should have made that delivery? Is that the person we should have brought in? I mean, why wouldn't we do this? You gotta use your resources the right way. Am I gonna, if it's not the best use of my time, and we've had this conversation over the years many times. Sometimes the easiest, fastest decision, because it's just not complicated, is not the best use of someone's time. Or I know I'll get a yes from them, but it's really not the best use of their time or my time. But I'll at least get a yes, right?
Well, in the name of time, sometimes you ask the person that you know is going to give you the yes. And in effect, if you keep doing that, I see that happen with extras, certainly on the school side. There's a handful of people that'll say yes. And you know what? When you're crashed for time, when you've got to get something done.
But why? Why you crashed at time?
You're constantly going to the people who are going to get it done.
Yeah,
they're going to say yes and get it done.
But that also means our leadership is not, the time management isn't the best if it's doing that often.
Part of it's human nature.
No, I think there's sick days. I think there's other things, but waiting because we're not prepared or we're waiting to the last minute on something, that's leadership's fault. That can be a style too. Last minute Charlie can be a problem, right? So we all know time off, someone takes ill during the day, there's something that happens, we got bombarded. That's different. But to have it happen every day just because it becomes who we are because we don't plan correctly, that can be taxing. Good. And who do we usually make wait? How's that working for us? Who do we usually make wait? I mean, we don't. Very rarely do we make the manufacturer wait. And then I think sometimes because of a nice apology, you know, I'm really sorry I'm late on this, or we can be very charming and very, very kind. And remember, I'm not talking about bad people here. I'm talking about good people with good intentions. They just don't know how to manage their time properly. And sometimes we sometimes think an acceptable excuse is, hey, I'm taking full responsibility on that. Well, you know what? That gets old too. You got to be careful. So who do we usually make wait is our team. And that's not good. I mean, I hope I'm talking to all of you as much as I'm talking to us. And Brian, you're learning from this too, right? I mean, we all have a responsibility, and deadlines are are key. And I think that if I learned anything from banquet rooms in the past is, and if I learned anything from airplanes flying, they're not going to wait for me, right?
Man, it's easier to catch them before they leave the ground.
Yeah, it definitely is. But even banquets, you do not want to have not enough food for the banquet, not enough people on staff for the banquet, and you want to communicate and have all of that ready beforehand. And I really believe our education department almost runs like an event planning location because of how you have to think of the catering needs, the mannequin needs, everything that has to go into it. And it's moving and it's different all the time. How's it working for us if someone doesn't get an answer? Because Trish is always trying to be a month out, I take her questions and she speaks in bullet form. She goes fast. I just need 2 questions answered. And she's really easy to do business with. Someone else will come in and I'll think, oh my goodness, it's going to be a long one. And they're not a month out. They're just brainstorming out loud. There's a difference in style, but how's that working for us with the people that are waiting for us? I've got, I wanted to give an example. I haven't presented this to Steve yet, but I've got 53 things on a list of things I need to talk to Steve about, and we need to prioritize it. And when you look at it, you think 53 things, and does this all have to get done right now or next year? But the things that are on it need for us to have conversation and prioritize. And I'm sure you have a different list, but what are the things? When do we want to get it done? What is it going to require? How much do I need his brain power on it? And I keep lists because I'm not smart enough to try to remember what. So when I look at it, I'll keep going back to it and saying, and I also like to see what changes did we get done in a year's time. I really like that. And I try to give myself deadlines on everything. I don't like just open issues. So anyway, those 53 things, that's exactly what you want to see. And they're not complicated. They're just everything I'm thinking about that needs adjustments. So here we have the 9 tips for increasing your focus for getting things done. I thought this was kind of clever, but it's good. Use a kitchen timer, time yourself, use apps to block distracting websites, focus on 3 tasks per day, productive procrastination. Just go through it and look at it. Can they take a picture of that with their phones? They could probably snap that and take a look at it. And create a wall calendar of X's. I think looking at a timeline and knowing what you're trying to get done. I hope this is hitting home for you as much as it is while we're saying it. We don't have all this right. And there's times, what are your fillers? Let's do this one. What are your fillers that people now know you have no intention of discussing that right now? What are yours? Do you know what yours are?
Okay.
And what's another one?
Let's talk about it.
We'll have to talk about it. And I always think, well, we are talking about it. Why can't we have discussion on it right now? Because he doesn't want to engage in it right now.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but then when will you? That's not fair to just say, I have no intention of ever discussing that with you again, right? Or can we set up time to discuss that? And those are things that are on that list of things we're going to talk about, but never get to. I can tell you the amount of times I come back in on a Monday and people said, Steve was supposed to talk to you about that this weekend. I said, no, never brought up. Never came up. So tell me now, and then let me see what I can do on that. Was his intentions when he said, I'll talk to Terry about that this weekend? I think he had every intention of doing that, but it didn't happen.
I have hope. I hope every night we're going to talk about that.
Okay. Big joke. Big funny.
Uh-huh.
Let's open it up to questions, Brian. If anyone's still alive out there. Wonder what they're thinking. Hello?
So no questions.
No question.
Right now.
Comments? Did you need to hear this? Was it beneficial? Oh, no, that was a little heavy, but it was good.
Yes, it was.
We have 4 minutes. Yes, we needed it. Thank you. Yes, we needed it. And how would you start? Make a list like mine. Make a list of everything you've got open or things you're brainstorming about. Hello, you're not allowed to read it. And just keep making a list and then prioritize and give it a deadline. Like to have this done by the end of the year. You don't need to look at that right now. I'll give it to you. But you look at it and then you refer to it and say, how can we get these things done? And remember, it could be the hours aren't working for us, that we're open so many hours that it appears that we're busy, and as a result, we're not able to get things done. And I'm not saying that you should, someone might say, oh my gosh, Terry just said I can't be behind the chair anymore. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to realize that those resources, whether it's your administrative front desk team, all of them have to be resources for you to get the things you need to do. And then that start of the day, the middle of the day, end of the day, leadership. That's how you closing that day out. And how you beginning that day, and what are you trying to get accomplished? That's big.
And it comes back to, if you do the things that you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do them, soon you'll be able to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. That's really I think the underlying message of this entire thing is, are we doing the things we're supposed to do? And are we doing them when we're supposed to do them?
Well, I'm going to give you another quick example of how different even we are. I can't work off of a calendar and a phone. I think it's really difficult. I need to be able to jump forward, jump back. When were we traveling next? How many days in between? What else did I have before that? What else do I have after it? And he just looks at a calendar, and you don't look at the calendar as what I have commitments on.
Well, I look at, because the count, what that doesn't have for me is it doesn't have all the different calendars meshed into one. So I have to see what's going on, what other things are going on in all the different places. What's our family calendar? What's our PSC calendar? What's our education calendar? What's the school calendar? What's the consultant calendar? All of those.
All those make decisions for you to say what?
Whether I can do it or not.
Uh-huh. And you never say no. So that's funny to me. You don't say no anyway. So why are you looking at all those
I
calendars?
say no.
No, you don't. All right, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you next month. And the topic next month is choose wisely. Choose wisely.
So next month, we'll see which one of those 53 items on her list I choose to answer.
Choose wisely. Choose to discuss with the
Have a great month, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.